needs all the references he can get. So we are now recording, so I'm just going to do a little repeat of what I just said. So we're entering data or we're doing our runaway homeless youth training. We have our PowerPoint that we're going to use. We also have our RHYMIS program manual that we're going to send out after this training for your reference. We're in our training site. I'm shadowing Jume, and Jume does not have to enter data as any project because her project, and this is the same for you, Diana, your projects are defaulted to this Runaway Youth Crisis Center. You do not backdate shelter entries. We have to be very mindful of collecting live data or entering clients within 24 hours into shelter. So we can show that system that the client is currently in this bed. It's especially important for your funding source as well. And you're able to go back and edit shelter stays after you create them, but I assure you it is more time consuming to go back and correct mistakes than to enter the data live, and be very patient with yourself and mindful of your entries as you begin working in CSIS. Take your time, be patient with yourself until you become accustomed. I do encourage, like I said before, come into the training site. Create as many clients as you want. You know, that's why I create the Kardashian families, because there's a whole brood of them, right? There's a million of them. So you never run out of people to create if you start with the Kardashians. Yeah, so get in here and create some clients. I will be sending out, I will do my very best to create a shelter intake step by step for you guys by the end of the day, or at the very least end of the week, so you guys have something to refer back to that will be quite literally a step-by-step guide in creating these clients. So with that, we're going to begin. I'm Jume. I am entering data as the Runaway Youth Crisis Center. I have a client that needs to be checked into a bed. So I'm going to go to Shelter Point. And your provider is listed here. Your unit list is here. And when we click check client in, check in referral, or view all, pretty much all of these buttons will take you to the same screen. So if someone happens to send you a referral, you can check in that referral from here. Or if the client is coming in and we have to create the new client, then you would check the client in from here or view all. I will show you that no matter which button you hit, you will go to the same screen. So here's this screen. This is our shelter inventory information. That was hitting check client in. I'm going to go back to our Shelter Point dashboard. That's what this is called. This is your Shelter Point dashboard. If you click view all, same screen. So if you're ever in here and you accidentally click check client in or view all or even check in referral, it still will take you to the same screen. So you don't have to, freak out or get nervous or anything like that. So from here, same thing. If we click on the green plus sign next to the bed or the blue empty under the client, it will take you to client search. I'm going to show you. So say we are going to identify, of course, which bed we're going to be checking the client into. This is the training site, so there are no clients checked into the beds. The live site keeps your live inventory running, obviously. So you would have, if there are clients in your beds, in these specific beds, their names would be listed accordingly. But because we're in the training site, nobody's checked into your training beds. So I'm going to just show you again how whether you hit the green plus sign next to the bed or the empty client, you will be directed to the same screen. So I'm going to hit the client button, the empty button, I'm sorry, and we're at client search. I'm going to refer back to shelter point, check client in, green plus sign, same screen. So if you ever feel like, oh no, I think I hit the wrong button, most of the time the button will take you to the same screen, regardless of which one you hit. So that can give you a little peace of mind. So today we're going to create a client. Let's create JoJo Siwa. And we want to first search our clients. You always want to client search. The fact of the matter is that there may be clients that are coming into your beds and staying at your shelter who have previous homeless experience from being a part of a household. So in this scenario, JoJo is a new client. There are no matches for JoJo. But if I were to search North, we see that North has an existing profile. So we want to check in this, we'd want to obviously confirm that this is the client we are working with and check this client into our bed. We do that by either hitting the plus or the client ID. It will take you to the same screen again. So let's actually check in a client that's existing from a previous household. So we're going to do that. And then we'll create JoJo in just a few moments. So from here, we're checking North into this house, this bed. We can add any notes. Maybe we're given shampoo, toiletries. I'm not sure that's how you spell that. Maybe she has a locker number, any other notes that you'd like to add. From here, you can expand this household's overview. And if North were to in fact have left this household, you could manage the household, but maybe it's that North is taking some time away from the family. And I believe that you guys provide that respite and is that true? That's correct, right? Jume, that if a client maybe left a household temporarily, they could come stay with you guys for a little bit, but they're still a part of that household. Or is that not typically the situation?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Sometimes clients, they may have been in an existing household. They come to stay to give relief to the family just for a couple days and they'll return.
We typically don't put the household in.
Right, no, you would definitely not. But you, typically clients aren't leaving the household for good when they come for you guys, right?
No, they're not leaving for good.
Okay, good. So we don't want to manage the household. If the client had in fact left the household, you would want to manage this household and remove North from the family and set herself as an individual or set herself as her own household. But like Jume just said, typically clients are not leaving the household for good. So you are just only checking in North. So you'll see that North is selected. You obviously, Kim and Kanye are not coming to stay at your shelter. It's just North. From here, because of the nature of your project, it is defaulted to identify that this is your RHY type entry. Your release of information, because North is not legally allowed to consent to release her information, you guys are not legally required to provide that release of information. So keep that in mind as well. From here, we do want to continue to provide this story. We don't know if any of this information, Jume's never met North. She doesn't know who collected this information and when she collected it. So she wants to make sure, and Diana as well, you all want to make sure that you are providing the most complete, current, consistent, and correct data to the system. So we're going to review every piece of this information to ensure that we are telling the client's story. From here, we can typically, things in your client demographics don't necessarily change, but we'd always want to verify with the client that your birthday is May 2nd, 2010. You identify as a Black or African American, white, non-Hispanic female. North will either affirm or say, actually, maybe she's gender nonconforming, or she is identifying as a trans female to male, whatever the case may be. But we are going to confirm all of this information with North. We're going to proceed to our living situation. Our relationship to head of household. Again, if North is just taking some time away from her family or maybe she's run away, we're not officially removing her from the household that she's in. So this relationship to head of household will remain the same. Your client location does not change. You don't have any other option. But the prior living situation, this often changes. This can change from night to night for some of our clients. This prior living situation, which is that question, where did you stay last night? That is that question. It identifies here that North was in a place not meant for habitation. Well, again, we don't know if that is necessarily North's story. We don't know when this data was entered, and we don't know whether it's complete, current, consistent, or correct. So we need to ask North and all of our clients when we check them in, where did you stay last night? And North is going to identify to us that she was actually at her friend's house. From there, we're going to ask the client, how long have you been staying at your friend's house? And she's going to identify that she's been staying one night or less. She was there, but her mom found out that she was sleeping over at her friend's mom said, no, we can't have North here. She's run away. She needs to go back home. Our approximate date homelessness started. If North has not experienced any literal homelessness, we want to enter that day for the day that she's checking into the bed. From here, we should ask how many times. So she has this instance of homelessness, but regardless of where she stayed last night, how many times has the client been homeless on the streets or in emergency shelter in the past 3 years, including today? So that's talking to North and trying to identify her history of homelessness herself while she's been in the household with Kim and Kanye and otherwise. We always want to collect this information because it's going to assist us in determining whether North herself is either long-term homeless or chronically homeless because of the experiences that she's faced as of yet. So we're always thinking of the number of separate instances in which North has been homeless. She's identified that she has 3 separate instances and that her and her family have been homeless more than 12 months cumulatively in the last 3 years. So we're going to identify North as currently, because of her stay at her friend's house, she is actually at risk. But I want you guys to keep in mind that I don't believe that your agency, Jimmy, do you guys get graded on consistency?
We do.
Do you? And I bet this kind of gives you a little kind of.
Yeah, especially the part of the living situation is where we get hung up on. And especially like the approximate date of homelessness, because right now you have it as like the day that they entered the shelter. Is that moving forward is how we're supposed to be putting it?
What has the guidance been by Amy?
I guess it's dependent on the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we have it where, they're spending more than one night. So I guess we're assuming that's when the date would start.
So I'm wondering why, so typically we're always trying to improve our system, which is why we have these data consistency report cards. But why is RHY graded on data consistency? Because you guys are an emergency shelter, that's not how you spell consistency. You are an emergency shelter and you have fluctuating circumstances, right? I mean, these
correct.
It is not the nature of your project is not cookie cutter. So when we're looking at data consistency, our main goal of reviewing and having data consistency is to ensure that we are at least attempting to tell the best story. But then even here, we can see right now that this may not even be the most consistent story because we're looking at an at-risk of homelessness client because of their residence prior.
Yeah.
And their approximate date homelessness started is today, but this may not be, I don't know how this would even run consistently. So I'm going to circle back to you on that.
Awesome.
Because
I really appreciate that because because I was looking at our last report and I'm like, what are we doing wrong? And then, I always with our team to review this portion. Mm-hmm. So it's just that I'm like, why are we?
It's almost impossible to.
Correct. It is. It's almost impossible, especially with the youth that we're serving.
100%. Yeah, I'm a big questioner. So if things don't make sense, it's like, okay, well, we need to figure out why this makes sense. And we created the data consistency report cards to, encourage people to review the information. And if the report can't run a consistent response for you guys, then it's kind of like it's not doing its job, really, essentially. And with emergency shelters, we don't typically include emergency shelters in data consistency report cards because of the nature of the project. And
correct.
That's what you guys are providing. So I will definitely reach out. I'm sure it will not be an end of the week kind of answer, but
no worries.
It will definitely be something that we are trying to always improve, and we don't want to penalize our service providers when you guys are trying to enter good data, but it's just that the report itself isn't consistent with how you guys are even able to collect the information. So
exactly. Yeah, because that's the last report because that's the one thing that I was going to bring up again with our team. Mm-hmm. We just started like a monthly data kind of call in to our team. And that's the one thing that I've been trying to figure out for us. So this would be woo, off our backs just a little bit. So overall we've been doing really good with the other data stuff, like the timeliness and the qualityness of it, and but it's just this portion of the living situation, the consistency of it, is where we get hung up on.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely I will definitely advocate for at least, we can't change the logic, so let's just evaluate why we're running it for this particular project. So I will get back to you on that. Hopefully by the time next when we run data consistency for April, we won't be running it for this particular project.
Okay, thank you.
No promises, but I'll do my best. Okay, so the idea is to do your best, really, just like me, and collect the data as consistent as possible, because we are telling the client's story. You are, you're wanting to make sure that the information that you're entering is truly representative of the client's experience. So this is, in fact, something that would be consistent. But looking at it right now, even for myself, and I pride myself on understanding data consistency, it still just, to me, looks inconsistent. So do your best, tell the story, do what you can, and we can always work with you guys from there. As we go through here, again, you can ask, because North is coming in, typically our COVID-19 information is set for the head of household, but because North is entering this project as herself, you are able to ask this information, and maybe this can help work. It's all about data collection and telling the client's story. Is North's home life become increasingly difficult because of COVID-19? Is the stress of the pandemic created a stressful living situation with the family? What is the story? Is it something, did COVID-19 impact the client's homeless experience, or why they may be at risk of homelessness? We'll say yes, and that potentially, maybe she lost her mother or her father or something along those lines, or something in that arena. Either way, it's still about telling the client's story and ensuring that the information is in the system, so we can tell that story to our funders and our providers, of the youth clients that came into the system. How many are experiencing homelessness due to COVID-19? If we are not entering data and collecting information on this question, we cannot support that number. So anytime you see a question in here in HMIS CSIS, it is because we are asking you to ask it. It's not there for fun. So with our medical information, again, remind yourselves that this is the first time you are talking with North. You've never asked North if she has a disabling condition. So just because there's information here does not mean that it's complete, current, consistent, or correct. So you want to make sure that you verify your information with North. The best way to verify disabling information, disabling conditions, or any of our HUD subassessments, that's what these are called. These are your HUD subassessments. You want to click on your HUD verification. This will populate all of the disabilities that North may identify as having. So we can go down this list with North and ask, do you have a history of alcohol abuse or alcohol or drug abuse? Do you have any chronic health conditions, developmental disorders? Again, drug abuse on its own, HIV or AIDS, a mental health disorder, or a physical health condition. North is in fact going to identify that she does have a developmental disorder. So we see here that she had previously identified to another provider that she does not. So we want to make sure that we are ending this record set identifying that she does not have a developmental disorder. To end this record set, this no, we're going to click on our pencil. And we don't want to just change our no to a yes, because that would be like scribbling over somebody else's work, right? You want to end this record set for the day before we're collecting new information. So we hit save. We've ended it for the day before because today's the 9th. We're saving this information. And then we're going to write in our own record set and identify to the system that, yes, in fact, North does have a disabling condition. Sorry. So we're going to say yes here, because the question asking here, and this is based on self-attestation. If yes, is this expected to be of long continued and indefinite duration and substantially impairs the ability to live independently? This is either North's self-attestation of yes or no. She's going to say that no, it does not substantially impair her ability to live independently. It is long continued, but it doesn't. The biggest thing here is asking whether it substantially impairs her ability to live independently. Dyslexia. There we go. I think that's it. You can add a note on the disability if you'd like. It would only be visible in this record set. It's totally up to you and your internal agency workings. We're going to save here. And now we've provided complete, current, consistent, and correct information to the system. We have changed we ended our no and answered yes. And now we can say yes here. From here, you can ask North if she's covered by health insurance. Verify here. Typically, I mean, I know that when I was a teenager, I didn't know if I just knew that I went to the dentist and the doctors and stuff. I didn't know what kind of health insurance I had. If the client doesn't know, you can just, if the client already has information reported here, you can leave it as no's down the board. When we go to create JoJo Siwa later, we can also report data not collected for that information, but you'd still want to ask the question for each of the clients. Maybe they know whether they have health insurance. I don't know too many teenagers walking around knowing whether they have health insurance, and even if they knew what kind of health, or knew if they had health insurance, what type. So ideally and typically data not collected is a sufficient response for our unaccompanied homeless youth because they just don't know. This response has already been provided previously, so we're going to go off of this information. From here, non-cash benefit. So with these questions, for a client to receive non-cash benefits like food stamps, WIC, or TANF, they have to be typically have to be over the age of 18. There are, of course, some mothers who are under the age of 18 who do receive certain food assistance programs, but that is not North's case. So she does not, in fact, receive any type of this benefit. So this is also complete, current, consistent, and correct. From here, these are your it says RHYMIS required fields. These fields are required by your funding source. This is where we're going to get, if I can get rid of this stupid thing. There we go. This is your program manual. When we go down, our RHY program data elements. Very helpful information to assist you in answering these questions in the future. So as you can see, we have these referral sources and I'm sorry, let me go back. I don't know why. We have the BCP determination, youth eligible for RHY services, whatever the case may be. You will continue to tell the client's story. So from here, maybe we've actually had the client referred through outreach, youth eligible for RHY services, yes or no, your BCP status determination. So Jume, if you don't mind enlightening me a bit on some information.
On this part?
Yes, the BCP. How does Diana know what date of BCP status determination is?
For the date of BCP, which is Diana, would be the Basic Center Program project. So that would be the date that it would be like the day they enter into our shelter is when we determine that.
Okay, so like, would it be like the BCP? So that's the entrance, and then when they discharge, it's later.
We don't put anything for the discharge there. So okay. They're just wanting when we determine that for them to be in our project.
Okay. So okay. That would just be like intake with NetMIS and all the other stuff, the same as that. Probably.
Yeah. Okay. It would be similar to that. And then like for the next two questions, it asks if the youth if no, eligible for ride services, I think is, yeah, out of those 4 questions. But usually ours would be, you know, they're eligible.
Yeah, aren't they not put in if they're not eligible, or are they still put in?
They are still put into the project, but it depends on, I think the only ones that we don't put in for their youth that are domestic violence or like on probation and stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I've only done this specific training like maybe 2 or 3 times. So I appreciate your insight and guidance as well.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. So our sexual orientation, again, how the client identifies. Maybe she's questioning, unsure, bisexual, lesbian, gay, heterosexual, other. Client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. So it's a little early for a to be identifying, but who knows? Maybe she knows. And once you know, you know, you know when you're left-handed, right? Last grade completed. Again, she is 10 years old, so that would make her about 5, less than 5. I don't know. Your project 10 is a little young for you guys, or aren't you 12 to 17?
It's actually 10 to 17.
Oh, yeah, so 10 would be the youngest.
Okay, great. School status, she is attending school, but irregularly. Again, we're using all of this to just continue to continue to tell the client's story, asking these questions, how the client identifies their health status, their dental health, mental health. We'll say fair here. If she's pregnant, formerly a ward of child welfare or foster care agency. North is not. And then, of course, if she were to identify that she is, you would then answer these questions below. Formerly a ward of juvenile justice system, same thing, yes or no. If it were yes, you would again answer these questions. Family critical issues, is there family unemployment of a family member? Yes. We're going to identify that yes, Kim is actually unemployed right now and that her father has bipolar disorder. Neither or have a physical disability or substance abuse. Insufficient income to support youth, we'll say yes. And whether the family member is incarcerated, we'll say no. Again, all of this is to tell the client's story and to just be able to provide demographic information for our clients that are entering your program. With all of this information that is completed, we're going to simply save and exit. And now we've checked North into our bed. North will stay in our beds for however long she needs to or until the program expires for her. And then once she is done, we simply hit this minus sign and can check North out and provide a reason for leaving. And where is she going? She's going back to her family members. So it would either be a temporary or permanent tenure. Ideally, staying with family permanent tenure would be your most positive outcome. And then we would continue, if any information had changed during this time, then we would collect this information. Here we have more questions. Whether the client has ever received something in exchange for sex. Now, are you collecting this information, Jume, during the exit?
Yes, we do.
Okay. It would seem that maybe doing this in an interim while the client was there would be.
I know, right? I would think that would be like part of the intake part.
Now, is this something, I'm wondering if that's something that, if you could, I mean, not necessarily in, in the entry, but I don't see why we wouldn't be able to set, maybe, I don't know, I'll ask, but why we wouldn't be able to collect this information while the client was staying there, because, I mean, these are.
Because those questions are like more pertain to human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a safe place prior to them being, coming into our shelter.
Yeah.
That's what we have for our street outreach program here in Pinellas.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was kind of wondering why it's set. I mean, in Pinellas, it's set towards the end too, at an exit too. So I'm not sure.
Very workflow wise and human wise, why we ask these questions. Oh, okay. Well, if they identify yes to every one of these, like, have a nice day, I'd see that doesn't really make sense. If you're not asking these questions while the client is engaged with you and they're like heading out of the system, what are we doing with this information right now? If we collect this information while they're engaged, what, so let me see about potentially setting these record sets. Again, this is why I really enjoy doing these trainings, because we get to talk about what really makes sense, because it doesn't make sense to ask these questions when someone's walking out our door,
Yeah.
And it's like this in Pinellas too?
Yeah, it's just like this in Pinellas, so. I
Well,
know, but for our street outreach program, these questions are asked prior to they coming into our program. So that's why I'm like, why? I mean, the question is asked again at exit, but we asked too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna circle back, but Diana, for your purposes and for now, these are exit questions. I don't see this. I mean, even if we could do it at like in an assessment for the client while you're working with them, so then it will still show that you've asked these questions on the exit.
I feel like there's.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I
No,
think that there's a printout that Jackie and Lashana were giving me to fill out, like a paper printout of these questions. So I don't know if maybe they were filling it out like handwritten and then putting it in later. I don't know if that makes sense.
It would make sense that it would at least be collected prior to the client leaving the situation. So if you were to identify these threats or these risky behaviors, that there would be something that you could do further to prevent it, or engage the client with a different program prior to them leaving. So I'll see what we can do on the HMIS CSIS side of things, if this isn't something that can be done and collected through an interim prior to the exit.
Yeah, that way we can set up referrals.
Yeah, so then you know what you're working with, really, and what other services we can provide the child, the client. So great. I'll get back to you on that one too. Okay. So then we would just proceed. As you can see, Diana, we just are asking these questions, responding to the client and how, just telling their story. Counseling received by client, yes or no. We're going to say that she received individual, group, and peer family counseling. Identify the number of sessions that she's attended. This would, of course, be specific to each of the client's experience. A plan is in place to start or continuing counseling after exit. Is the exit destination safe as determined by the client and the caseworker? Client has positive adult connections outside of project, and client has permanent positive peer connections. Client has permanent positive community connections. From here, after we hit that save and exit, we have then checked the client out of our bed. So I do want you to keep in mind that when we look north up in the future, I am able to see this entry across the board because I'm a system admin. But if I were to be logged in as another provider, we would not see North's stay at your crisis center because of the nature of the project. Your project is locked down for privacy purposes. So also keep that in mind. We can go through creating a new client if you'd like, but if you do feel comfortable kind of jumping in here and doing it yourself, you can always, it's totally up to you. Again, all we would do, we're logged in as ourselves, we're in Shelter Point, we're going to check client in, green plus sign or red or blue empty sign, whichever one. And then we search. JoJo is not listed. We'd fill all of this information out. How old is JoJo by now? She's like 17, I think, or 18.
Yeah, I think at least, yeah.
How old is JoJo's diva? I'm sure my niece could tell me.
I just know the bows.
Exactly. For a U.S. military veteran, if you are creating clients, Diana, your U.S. military veteran is data not collected. Then we're going to identify how she identifies as a female, white, non-Hispanic, and add new client. We are adding just JoJo to this system, adding client only. We're going to hit that green plus sign and then check JoJo in from here. As you can see, this information will be completely blank. So you will have to, you're going to do it, even if it's all populated, you know by now by listening to me, regardless if there's data in here, you're going to ask every question like you're talking to the person for the very first time. Who her relationship's head of household, maybe she's herself, where she stayed last night, how long she's been there, her approximate started. I will circle back about whether you guys, if she hasn't had any experience homeless, would this be the story that we're telling? Trying to think of a zip code in Bradenton.
34208.
Thank you. But again, we're just going to go through and tell this story and collect this data. We always want to make sure we hit our HUD verifications, regardless of whether, I'm going to mute you. Feel free to mute and unmute. I'm just getting a little feedback. Thank you, Diana. Feel free to, or I'm sorry, HUD verification, regardless of we have a red triangle or a green check mark, we are asking and answering. We're going to say no, auto populate. Maybe JoJo identifies that she in fact does have bipolar. Save there. Save and exit. Asking JoJo, because we were able to identify that mental health disorder, we now can identify that she does have a disabling condition covered by a health insurance. Maybe client doesn't know or data not collected. For reporting purposes, if the client doesn't know, we're going to say data not collected. Same thing, non-cash, because JoJo is underage, she is not able to receive or to apply or receive non-cash benefits. We're going to say no. And then we continue on. We answer all of our RHYMIS required fields and identify each of these areas where she is coming from, when she was determined eligible. JoJo has recently come out, attends school regularly. She is not employed. But again, all of this, and I do encourage you to jump in here, create some clients, get in the system, get yourself comfortable with asking these questions. The best way we've found in any of our intakes, the more comfortable you are and having it flow like a conversation. I mean, I don't know about you, but when it feels like, you know, I'm in my, especially at my OB now, I'm recently pregnant. When I'm at my OB and they're going down the list and like literally checking off boxes, it feels very informal. It feels very impersonal. But if you are having this flow as a conversation, you will likely gain more trust and engagement in the process. It's not a guarantee, of course, nothing is, but reviewing these questions so that you can have it flow easily into a conversation will likely give you more accurate responses from the client, as opposed to, do you attend school regularly? Are you employed? How are your teeth? How is your health? How is your mental health? You know, having that motivational interviewing type conversation where the client is leading you to tell you like, well, I feel sick often and I haven't been to the dentist in years, you know, and letting that conversation really flow can assist you in collecting this information in a more familiar type as opposed to just checking off boxes. So, but as you can see, creating a client and adding a client that's existing, we're really, you know, going through very similar movements. It just so happens that new clients will not have any information in here. All of your information will be the first information collected on the client. You may have historical, with clients that have previously been in the system, you'll have that historical reference of, like if you remember, North had previous homeless experience because her family had previous homeless experience. And you may be able to ask some more questions on how that has impacted her life and how that has led, you know, her to this situation or being in your crisis center as well. So keeping in mind that this process, really creating a new client versus using an existing client, it does not change the workflow and how the process works in checking clients into these beds. So again, unless you have any other specific questions, do you feel a little bit more comfortable? You feel confident going into working in the system a bit more, Diana?
Yeah, I feel, ooh, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, it sounds like that. Okay. Yeah, I feel a little bit more comfortable. So I guess the thing, you were like adding people that aren't real, is so this is a different like link than what I signed into?
It depends. This is the training site. I'm not sure what you've already signed into. You may have already signed into our live site.
Okay.
So this is our live site. It looks like this.
Yeah.
And then this is your training site. It has these orange colors.
Okay.
Your information, your username and password are the same. From the temporary, I have to remind, I ran into I wasn't clear on training that when you go to log in the training site for the first time, you're going to use that same temporary password you used to log into the live site. And then it will ask you to reset your password and you'll create the password. It makes sense to have it match the password you created for the live site. Just to save yourself any confusion, because that's happened to me. So I can send you the link again with
Oh no, I see it now. It's just right under the other one. Sorry about that.
No worries. Go ahead and log in and jump around in here. Create some clients. Feel free to use JoJo. Feel free to use any of the clients that are currently in here. You've got, you know, the Kardashian family in Northwest. I think I created the Khloe Kardashian's daughter, but she's only 3, so that kind of doesn't make sense for her story at least. So I'm just going to exit JoJo. But yeah, jump around in here, and anything you do in here will not affect the rest of the system. If you create something and you check a client in and want to do anything working with the client in CSIS HMIS and want me to check it out for you, just send me an email and say, hey, I think I checked this client into the bed. Can you review the data? Can you look at it to see if it makes sense, if it's complete, current, consistent, and correct? I have no problem going through that. But definitely going through and at least, you know, reviewing the questions that you're going to be asking will, like I said, help engage with that conversation flow of things.
Lauren, and Diana, we're gonna have Diana start out in the training site first. Just put in a few before we have her going in live.
Great.
So just to get her familiar with, I know, because we have other systems that we put data in, so I just don't want her to get confused with everything else that we have.
Imagine.
Yeah. So Diana, if you can start out just putting all the data into just play around in the training site first, and then I can review it. Either Lauren can review it too, just to see, and then we'll get you up and running into the live site.
Great.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I think the only other question I had was just like where the follow-up calls are, or how you generate that.
Do you guys have follow-ups in HMIS, CSIS, Gmail?
Yes, we do follow-up calls. And I can, either you can, Lauren, or I can train her on that. So that piece.
Sure. If it's any way, are we doing the post-exit follow-ups from here?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So you do your Diana, and there is in that step-by-step guide, I know it's in there. It's probably like page 12 or something like that. There's a step-by-step on how to complete your follow-ups, but instead of reviewing, we can't access the client's follow-up in Shelter Point. We have to go through Client Point. So we click on our Client Point. We identify the client who needs the follow-up. Let me actually pull up the step-by-step guide real quick, just for our own reference. Okay. So we have our entry exits, our HUD verifications. This is all the disability, income, health insurance, non-cash. Creating an interim. These aren't things that you typically would be using, Diana. Creating follow-ups. So it's page 12 of your step-by-step guides. So your let me open this in my PDF. So here, I recommend, everybody's different, but for me, and I don't know about you guys, I forget everything. I literally have to make Outlook reminders, just like my Post-its. In CSIS, you have the ability to create a reminder, a follow-up for yourself, but it starts by adding a case plan. Everybody's different. This is how I've trained various projects. Typically shelter projects, that we normally train, like overnight shelter projects, they don't have to do follow-ups. But obviously, because of the nature of your grant, you are required to do follow-ups. So and you may absolutely, Diana, if there's another way that your agency is creating these little reminders for yourselves, please do whatever is best for your workflow. But the way that I train other agencies and other projects to do post-exit follow-ups is to add a goal to a case plan. And this is going to be for your reference. So you are going to, let's just make it very general. And you are going to identify that you are doing a follow-up on this date. So we're going to do it 30 days. I always say to give yourself a couple days in between. So today is March 9th. So you can start somewhere around here, like in the first week. If your reports are anything like ours, where we actually have to hit like within 30 days, if it's over 30 days, then it doesn't count. So what you're doing here is just adding just a little note for yourself as to why you're doing this goal. If you are case planning in CSIS, this is how you would add a case plan and add notes to the client's case plan. But if you guys are not, again, just depends on the nature of your grant. You have this post-exit or this follow-up date is going to show up on your home screen. Actually, let me do Jume because that's who I'm shadowing right now. If you have to do more than one follow-up, maybe we do a 30-day and a 60-day. And then that's going to be in March or May. And then we're going to still identify that this is about when we want to follow up with that 60-day follow-up. We're going to save action step. From here, we're going to save and exit. So when Jume goes back home to her home screen, every time Jume logs in, she's going to see these two follow-up lists. And then when she goes to this goal, because this is the client, this is the goal, 2 weeks from now, she's like, what is this? I don't know what this is. Let me click on it. It's going to take me right to that goal that's telling me, oh yeah, I need to do a 30-day follow-up with the client. So we're going to say that we've done this. We're just going to pretend we're in the future. We're saying yes, that I completed it on the 5th, and it was achieved. So we can save and exit. And then go into, again, we're following our step-by-step. Sorry, we're right here. Go to the client's entry exit and complete a post-exit follow-up. We're hitting entry exit, follow-up. We're right here, add follow-up review. And we're identifying what it is. We're pretending we're in the future. And your follow-up is very simple. Was aftercare provided? How was it provided? From there, you're all set. And then when Jume goes back home, that 30-day follow-up is gone. If you guys do 60 days, then obviously this would stay on here until you're done completing it. Go ahead.
We actually run a report.
Okay.
Brendan has a report for us that he created for us. So I pull that every week just to see any follow-ups that we have that is pending or that is overdue or past due. Yeah.
So yeah, you don't necessarily have to, you don't have to go through that whole adding a follow-up reminder for yourself. Really, Diana, the process then, if you have that report, when you see that clients require a follow-up, you go through the client's information. We're in our entry exit, hit that post exit follow-up button and add your follow-up review.
Diana, just a reminder, we do our contract, we do 30, 60, and 90.
Great.
Yep. I have one more thing, Lauren.
Yeah, I knew that. So the difference with this system is that we do the 91.
Correct.
Yeah, I knew that. Okay.
Yep. Lauren, I have another question. For the, like, if we were to, let's say the client's still in our shelter and we have an update, like new information, do we do an interim update or do we?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Okay.
let's say North provided us, let's say that North is still in our project. I'm actually going to have to delete this.
Okay.
And then I'll delete the exit. So again, you cannot access your interims. That's your interim button. We do not access that through Shelter Point. You have to access your interims and your post-exit follow-ups through Client Point. We can search for North. We're going to click here. We're using today's date. We go to our entry exit tab, select our interim, and then we add our interim review type. Typically, I keep it general. I require, unless you're doing a very specific type that's required for your funding source, keep it general as of update, save and continue. And then what information are we updating? Are we updating the fact the client has a disabling condition, any non-cash benefits? This is where I'm thinking, again, this is the way my brain works, that this would be helpful to have all of those questions that we're asking at exit exist in this interim, so that you can ask them while the client's still in your project and you can update that information. All the questions are still getting asked, but we're doing it in more, what seems to me, a more appropriate time frame than at exit. So is there other information that you would be adding here? We have aftercare for your RHYMIS program. That's your follow-up. That's what all these little assessments are. This is your exit. So what would make sense to me is that your exit would essentially become your interim, because you want to ask these questions while the client's in here. No, I don't know why. It's very strange to me.
We can, maybe we can put that in our process to do before we ask those questions at exit. Let me run it through Nicole, our VP.
Yeah.
Let's see what she says.
Yeah, because it's a very simple, it's not changing any of the question. It's just when you can answer them, you know?
Yeah.
It's not, they're still being collected and they'll still show that upon exit, it really just makes your exit assessment the same as your interim assessment.
Exactly.
But who knows, maybe.
Yeah. Who knows who put those questions way at the end?
Probably people that didn't work in your workflow system. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything. So I will follow up if there's maybe some like HUD reason why it's not there in the interim. But it may simply just not be there because, like many other things, nobody's ever asked for it to be changed. So you let me know. I'll ask, and then you let me know whether we should go forward with that. If anybody has any, quarrels with it at your, at Family Resources, and we'll go from there.
Will do. Thank you, Lauren.
But yes, Diana, your interims, if any of this information, any updates are interims are updates, this is where you would collect that information. Maybe while she was staying, she identified that she was pregnant in your shelter, who knows, whatever the case may be. So let's do that and say 9 months from now, we'll say save and exit. So this is our update. And then when we go to exit the client, permanent tenure, save and continue. We will then see, because we entered that information in an interim, then it carries forward. And then this information was previously entered again. So it was previously entered. We'd still want to ask the questions. And this might even show, progression also having, because each of these, if you had it in an interim, maybe while she was staying in your project, her mental health status was fair, but by the time she's leaving, it's excellent. And then that's something you can show the progression of the client, and how the stay at your agency actually improved her mental health. And you can report on that as well. So from there, we would again ask all those questions, save and exit. But now we have our interim listed here, and then our post-exit follow-ups here. You access all of these, like I said, through your client point and in the client's profile. You cannot access this screen from Shelter Point, so do keep that in mind. Do we have anything else?
I am good here. Diana, do you have anything else?
No, this has really helped though, actually. Sorry, there's feedback in the middle.
No worries, no worries. And if you ever have any questions, if you're ever in the system and getting frustrated, I don't spend more than 5-10 minutes frustrating yourself, please. That is what Suncoast Partnership is here for. It's to provide technical assistance and guidance. Never frustrate yourself, because most of the time, I know for myself, when I've been in the system and I start to get frustrated with something, if I ask my supervisor, Brandon, he gives me the answer within 30 seconds, and it feels like I just wasted 45 minutes of my life. So just heed that as well. Never hesitate to ask and reach out for any assistance.
Thank you so much.
All right. I will send this as soon as this recording is available. I'll also send this for your reference, and kind of circle back probably the end about those other issues you may with the consistency report, potentially seeing where the guidance is to have the exit look the way the exit looks, whether it was HUD guidance or it's just how it's always been set up, and if it's something that can be changed.
Alrighty, sounds good. Thank you, Lauren, so much for taking your time for us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for everything you do. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.